Hi, my dear Astro family. Today we will be talking about the Aries full moon, which is going to be taking place on the 9th or the 10th of October at 16 degrees 32 minutes of Aries. But before we do that, I would like to mention that October and November are most likely the most challenging month of the year for multiple reasons. There is going to be a Saturn-Uranus square, partile square, which kind of indicates that they are going to be on the same degree, but they are not going to be making an exact aspect. They're going to be approximately about half a minute away from each other. So sometimes what it can indicate is that, we are expecting maybe a catastrophe to happen, but it doesn't happen at the end. So we do need to be mindful about this aspect. However, it does bring back certain type of situations, what we were experiencing, in the last 1.5 years since this Saturn-Uranus square have been around. So, I feel like with Saturn, it really talks about the fact that we need to prepare for whatever change is actually coming. And the change is kind of represented by Uranus, because sometimes it can be a shocking change. But also, we are going to be having two eclipses coming up, and these eclipses are heavy. And on top of that, there is the Pluto return also coming up at the end of the year in the US chart. Now, I did make a video about Pluto return before of the US, and then I did mention that most likely the first two are not the heaviest one, but the end of the year one is a huge one. So definitely. Anyway, a quick announcement which I wanted to make. Plenty of kind of beginner students requested to kind of launch a class about beginners astrology. So I decided to put one together, which is going to be about everything, seriously, everything to know about the 12 signs. So basically, we're going to be looking at the meaning of the signs from different angles. Therefore, this course is not just designed for beginners, but even intermediate or advanced students who want to actually put the puzzle together. So I'm going to be looking at the signs from a biological, philosophical, mythological, psychological point of view. So we're going to be looking at what flowers each sign rules and all those type of things. Basically, the aim with this course is to teach you to think with analogy rather than, kind of trying to remember everything. I've collected all the information about you need to know about, let's say, the sign of Aries. And actually, I made at least about 55 slides only about Aries. So this is going to be a course. This is discounted till I think the 15th of October, and then I'm gonna start it on the on the 23rd of October. So if you are interested to gain more knowledge about astrology and maybe you want to be qualified as well, then go ahead and check out this webinar. It's gonna be very useful. We're also going to be talking about the scripts each of these signs have. Of course, if you are not interested in the entire course, you will be able to buy them separately as well. So each sign, you might just want to be listening to your sun sign as well as your rising sign or your moon sign. If that's your intention, then just going to have to drop me an email and then you can buy them separately too. But anyway, let's get started with this full moon in the sign of Aries. So as I mentioned, it's going to be on the 9th or the 10th of October, depending on where you are. And it's going to be on 16 degree 32 minutes of Aries. So it's going to be on Leo dot. Now, this is a very fiery moon, as you can see, being in the sign of Aries, Leo would as well. So it's very much about encouragements, very much about trying to stand out, to grow as much as we can. If we start thinking about the keywords of Aries, it's about entrepreneurship, being a warrior, fighting for something which you feel it's right or wrong. So this Aries full moon is really inviting you to dive headfirst into a new cycle into your life. Why is that? Because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and it's talking about beginnings. What's very interesting is that it's a full moon, which sometimes can represent endings, but also it definitely a culmination point when, if you have got the courage to collect the rewards, then this could be all about that. Now, the fact that it's falling onto Leo, what which is really much about attention, being seen the way you want to. You want to be expressing yourself. So there is a need to heal why you are not shining in the brightest form of yourself. This full moon is inviting you to understand your identity, your directions in life, and also where does your motivation originate from. So this full moon really relates back actually to the new moon on the 31st of March or the 1st of April this year. So did you actually plant the seed around that time, which you are expecting to kind of get the reward for? Or you might need to be making some type of tweaks on that plan at the same time. This is most likely one of the most challenging full moon of the year. It has got a T square between Sun, Moon, Venus, Pallas Athene, and Chiron. So obviously, the T squares are always about a challenge, but it does talk about potentials as well because something is kicking our butts to get started. So we have got the Sun and Moon opposition, and Venus is actually along with the Sun. So basically, we've got the Sun Venus conjunction opposing the Moon and Chiron conjunction also. And then we've got Pallas Athene also in the mixture. So therefore, you can see that why it might be quite challenging. And Pallas Athene, by the way, is on in the sign of Cancer, which is really good. And Pallas Athene here is the kind of like the protector of cities. It's about wisdom, but it's in the sign of Cancer, which is very much about protecting the home, protecting shell, protecting the ego. Palasatin is about spotting patterns. So it's extremely important that you kind of look at why do I build these hard shells around myself? Of course, the source of the issue is going to be the opposition, which is really talking about, on one hand, unresolved issues in our relationships. The unresolved issue is the fact that Moon and Chiron are in conjunction, which is pretty much talking about, that's something to do with your self-esteem is actually a problem for you. Something that will trigger this combination kind of in your soul, and that needs to be healed. And once you heal it, then you have got the potential to create that peace, what the Sun and Venus actually talks about, which is just 2.5 degrees away from each other from a conjunction point of view. From another angle, this would talk about how am I going to be increasing my or improving my finances. Now, let's just break down this T square a little bit. So, one of the facts is that Chiron is in conjunction to the moon. Chiron represents psychological blockages, but also it talks about illness and sickness and healing as well. You should remember that Chiron is not necessarily interested in their own wounds anymore. Why is that? Because he learned to accept the fact that, you know what, I was silly. I managed to, poison myself by accident. I just need to learn to live with it. So there is an element of forgiveness to this full moon. There is an element of letting go of certain type of things in our life, which might not be letting us to move forward. So how are you going to create the peace within yourself. And, you know, I would say that this full moon is kind of like a timed bomb. We can really have that last straw syndrome. At one point, we can blow up, like, you know, we can fight back. And sometimes maybe what happens is that we're fighting back towards or against injustice. And the justice element comes from the Venus and Sun conjunction in the sign of Libra. There are two signs which are connected to justice, and one of them is Libra, the other one is Sagittarius. But one is more about moral codes, and that's the Sagittarius, like morally speaking, what's right and what's not. It's kind of like the universal law. And Libra is actually the law, what, you know, the justice system actually kind of promotes to us. So the fact that Moon conjuncts Chiron, you know, it's about healing, psychological blockages, also sickness. So something might pop up around those. Maybe the fact that it's on Leo dwarf, maybe a celebrity or a leader of the or a world is gonna somehow get sick, and that might be on the news. So this full moon is here to heal something else, but it's an opposition. So the healing is not coming that easily. You know, you're gonna have to somehow find it. This healing is kind of like a culmination point which have been building up for a while. And basically, you kind of force yourself to heal, or you kind of force yourself to surrender because there is no other option. Um, Now, sometimes what happens with Chiron that we are making promises to heal one part of our life, but we are too stubborn about it. So, in my opinion, this full moon really talks about to accept something, to let go of something, to forgive something, to find new ways or to find opportunities in your life. Uh, because the problem is that if we have got some type of wounds in our life, there is no point in being kind of fixated about it. We just need to find the root cause of it, accepting it because we cannot change the past and we need to move forward. Or how can you use your own wounds to kind of fuel a different area of your life? So it has got an element of an awakening to it as well. Sometimes it might be kind of like a boil pressure point, this kind of 16 degree of Aries, because you might feel that, you know what, I've reached my limit. I cannot go any further. But then finding a different door, which inspires you to move in or to walk into that. And that's the sense of the kind of like the spiritual meaning of this moon and Chiron conjunction. Now, it also can talk about that. Can you find actually the good in other people? Can you see their real motives? Can you actually find and address the wounding that lies within you, which might be coming from the fact that, you know, which might be actually hurting your pride because it's a Leo word, and Leo in many cases feels abandoned anyway. This is kind of like an old wound. It might be coming from March, April, as I said, and then it has been kind of building up in a sense. And the full moon, what does it do? It always sheds light on something. So these wounds become visible to others. And maybe others will start seeing that there is something wrong with us, you know, maybe on a mental plane. So I think the core lesson of this full moon is to look at why you have got lack of motivation. Now, don't forget that Jupiter is actually retrograde in the sign of Aries. The moon is actually conjuncting Chiron. So we're talking about lack of motivation, lack of strength here. Why do you have got the feeling that you are not good enough? Or why are you kind of obsessed with achieving something in your life, definitely it's kind of like a thrill-seeking type of full moon, that maybe you want to be promoting something in your life, you want to be building a relationship, you want to be complimented for something, and all those type of things. Also, at one point, I think, because we have got the ruler of the full moon, which is Mars, has got a T-square also. So we've got two heavy T-squares in this chart, and that's going to be happening between Mars, Neptune, and Mercury. So it can really talk about that, you know what? The problem is actually in our way of thinking. And that would be the Mercurian problem. So the T-square is based between Neptune and Mercury opposition, and then it's squaring Mars. So Mars is the solution. Mars is extremely, and therefore this full moon is the solution here, right? Because Mars is the dispositor of this full moon. So what Mars really talks to us about in the sign of Gemini, that we need to find a way to re-energize our way of thinking. And it needs to be changed. And sometimes what happens is that the mind is holding us back from any type of healing. Sometimes Mars is extremely slow at the moment. It's in its shadow period. On one hand, its speed is extremely slow, which is against Mars' nature. So this is kind of a frustrated Mars. What's going to happen is that very shortly it's going to go out of bound anyway, in a few weeks' time. So I think it's going to accelerate certain type of things, but the next 3 weeks can be quite a challenge here when it comes to who we are. In what ways we are yearning for reward. How can I step onto that new journey? Also, this could be the fact that we've got this opposition between the moon and Venus and stuff like that. It could really talk about, for instance, new laws are coming up, or they kind of announce that, oh, there is going to be a change of the law. And, for instance, we don't necessarily like that. It could actually be around something to do with the health industry also, with that Mercury in the sign of Virgo opposing Neptune. That could talk about medical matters. Another thing which did come to my mind is that it's very possible that there is going to be some peace initiation happening between nations, but it's an opposition, so it's coming with plenty of difficulties. So whatever Mars does, it energizes the mind. It kind of exaggerates or stimulates all the information and the facts what we have at hand. So I think what's very important with this T-square is that with the Mars, Neptune, and Mercury T-square, that what you see is not what always the reality. Because Neptune and Mercury is blurry information. And then what Mars does, it triggers a mind and then it becomes frustrated. So therefore, it kind of like there's this yep energy around it. We start shouting, screaming, being louder, running away from something. So Mars, the solution here is to cut some information away. But at the same time, it can also indicate that I really want to be analyzing a situation. Mercury in the sign of Virgo, but the information is too blurry. I cannot see what's right in front of my eyes. Or you're getting lost in the details, and then you get aggravated because you don't find the solution. Mars is very slow at the moment, so we should not be doing so many things at once, even though it's a mutable T-square. Or for me, this T-square is about trying to find cure for something, and we want to rush things, but we shouldn't be rushing. or we want to get the truth out of someone. By the way, this T-square started on 25th of September. It peaked on the 4th of October, and it's going to be around till the 14th of October. So this is a little bit of a longer period of time. Or you can be extremely confused about what is your passion, what is your drive, what you want to achieve, or how to act around others. You might want to be asking yourself the question, how much all the media and information around you manipulates your decisions? Does it make you scared? One more time, nothing is as it is seen. And that's what you need to remember with this full moon. This full moon is surely about how we relate to others, how we make negotiations with others, but also what is that internal dialogue you are having with yourself? How are you going to create an inner peace? For instance, this might be increasing your desire to form a relationship, but at the same time, you might not be sure whether it fits your lifestyle. Or imagine that there is someone you pretty much like, but you don't have the confidence to chat them up. Why is that? Has it been going on for at least 6 months? Now, Mars have got its challenges with Neptune and Mercury, but also it gets plenty of support from Saturn and the Sun. So basically, we've got a grand trine between them too, which is actually starting on the 4th of October. It's peaking right on the day of the full moon, 9th and 10th, and it's going to be around till about the 25th of October. So what does Mars want in Gemini? It wants to teach something us. It wants to fire up things about your learning or writing or teaching. And Saturn in Aquarius can help you with some innovations to your existing structure, a little bit of a modification about it. This is about air grand trine. So it's about what type of connections you make, how you put the dots together. But what bothers me a little bit is that Mars has got this in conjunction quincunx going on with Pluto that is stationary. Now, Pluto turns direct on 26 degree of Capricorn, and it's been retrograde since 29th of March. It started its retrograde journey on 28:35 Capricorn. So the major question here is that what Plutonian themes or topics you reflected on? Because now that Pluto is stationary, and Mars, we have got this in conjunction, which is, by the way, the aspect of annoyance. So you need to be acting on something, on the insights you gained previously. What are Pluto's theme? It's about wealth and power. So this new moon surely talks about ways of making money. Wealth can be talking about money, but it can also talk about your values and the experiences you have. So one of the questions here is that what's so important to you? Now, Pluto can talk about the power you have over others, but also it can talk about what type of power others have over you. And Mars, it really is annoying because it's an in conjunction, but we want to be cutting that away. So what is controlling you? What is manipulating you? Who is forcing you to do something which you don't want to do? How are you going to get your own power back? There is so much sexuality to this energy as well, by the way. So Pluto is, of course, something to do with sexuality. Mars is sexuality. And then we've got the full moon, right? Where Venus and Aries and Libra are involved. So this could really talk about that sacred sexuality or or the wounds around it. So you might want to be interested in exploring these type of topics around you. It's possible that there is going to be some tax issue, for instance, by the way, and legislation around tax or inheritance or insurance matters. That's actually a possibility. Um, yeah, these are something I would be. Oh, another topic which might have come to my mind with this Pluto, by the way, is some type of news about chemical weapons. There could be some more threats coming up, but I'm hopeful that because the Saturn Uranus square is not exact, that these are only rumors or these are kind of like just empty threats and kind of nothing will happen or nothing will come to fruition out of that. I'm hoping. Further topics this full moon can bring for us could be about, for instance, how much people like us. Because at the end of the day, Sun and Venus are in the sign of Libra, which can show codependency issues. However, this lunation is definitely about independence, what we are angry about. Am I courageous? We need to be fixing those because obviously the moon is in conjunction to Chiron, or what are my individual needs? And during this full moon, we definitely can feel a lot more vulnerable and even rejected by others because they might not be listening as much as we want them. So the major question is that, am I going to be looking after my personal needs, or am I afraid of being rejected by others? So therefore, somehow I'm losing my personal touch on things. Also, this could be about wanting to have a challenge in our life. I want to be having a mission to kind of work towards to. And the fact that there is Pallas Athena involved here, it really says that we have been running around this topic for a long time. Uh, if it should not be new to you in a sense. Pallas Athena is in the sign of Cancer, so it really talks about that we need to be spotting these emotional patterns, what we are having. And if we do so, then it could be a time to overcome those and starting a healing process. So, guys, this is my take on this full moon. It's a heavy one. I hope it helps you to get ready. And check out my 12-week astrology course on all about the signs. Each class should be about 2.5, 3 hours. So we will be spending together at least 35 hours. If you want to learn about that, call my website, AstroViktor.com, and you will find more details. Thank you, everyone. See you soon. Bye bye.